Now we have been worried of a third COVID-19 wave, but a new artificial intelligence model from Wits University predicts the risk of that is low rather. But let's find out what this means from Professor Bruce Millard from the Wits University, who will give us more clarity and details around this alert system. Prof, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us. I mean, how does this alert system work?
Thanks for having me, first of all. So, as you correctly indicate, we are concerned about a third wave. The problem with modeling these systems is that because they are the result of supra-spectral events, which location, how they will evolve, and where, is very hard to predict. It's very difficult to model when a wave will take off. So instead, in order to go around this, what we do is we develop early detection algorithms. And because this problem contains many parameters, many factors, it's very complex, and we need to learn from the data, we have to use artificial intelligence through machine learning. So essentially what this means is that we have a bunch of factors, indexes that the numbers depend on, or the pandemic depends on, and those are all fed into the artificial intelligence algorithm, excuse me, and that we feed to the algorithm in order to learn from the data. From there, we are able to say whether the data is compatible with low risk or high risk, whether the data is compatible with a wave or not.
Now, I understand, Prof, on that note, there are features with which predictions are based on. What are those features?
There's a large number of them. For instance, there is mobility patterns of the population. Are there any changes in the mobility patterns that could result in changes in the number of cases? How strict the non-pharmaceutical interventions are? The level of adherence to social distancing is also a very important factor. Also things like mortality, excess mortality, or hospitalization. Those are all factors that are correlated strongly with waves. So the moment we start having waves, you start having the appearance of hotspots. You see other factors such as mortality to go on the rise. What you have to do is to look at everything at the same time concurrently through a machine learning algorithm to allow you to understand whether, if you have an uptick in the number of cases, whether that is correlated with other factors. So it's very important to look at the data, as much data as possible at the same time, and learn from the data.
So with that being said, Prof, I'm sure every South African would like to know, what does then the artificial intelligence algorithm tell us about this predicted third wave? What does it say?
What this algorithm is telling you on a daily basis, so it's run on a daily basis, and it's telling you whether the data is compatible or not with a high risk. And we develop a separate algorithm for each province of South Africa, because each province has its own very specific ways in which the data appears in the data study. So when we start seeing for a few days in a row that the algorithm is telling us that the risk is high, it goes above a certain threshold that we have established based on earlier experience, then we certainly set an alarm, and that's basically given on our website for policymakers and the population to look at.
And with that being said, does it mean that the country is still vulnerable to new infection? Does it mean that the country is still vulnerable to a third wave in terms of what your data is telling you?
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that the data, say, of yesterday or today seems compatible with low risk doesn't mean that the third wave will not take place. It means that the data right now is not compatible with a wave. It means that the wave hasn't started yet. The fact that we are highly vulnerable, it's very clear. We have to continue adhering to social distancing and everything else that we have been doing so far. An example of how vulnerable we are is we had this outbreak, over 100 students at the UP, and that basically tells you that we have the conditions for a third wave to take off. There's a lot of people that haven't had the virus yet, and they are vulnerable to transmission. As a result of that, a third wave is highly probable if we don't adhere to social distancing.
All right, well, important message you're sending there, but thank you so much for talking to us. Professor Bruce Mulado from the University of the Witwatersrand. Quite an interesting alert system there, and artificial algorithms telling us, of course, the predictions when it comes to COVID-19 and the third wave in the country. But with that being said,